one for a long time, so hopefully it's working. Oh, yay, I see friends. Hey, Jody. Hello, friends. So welcome. Hi, everyone. So good to see you. I wanted to share today just a little talk about meditation. Hi guys. Hi Hadja. Hi Seth. Hello friends. And so some of you already have a meditation practice, and it's something that has deeply resourced you in your life. And some of you have never meditated, but feel like, thanks Jody, but feel like, this would be a really good time with the world just, literally on fire, and so much happening in the world, that you're longing for something to ground you and center you and uplift you. And then some of you may have had a meditation practice in the past. I see several of you on here who have joined me for teacher trainings and yoga trainings and meditation workshops and stuff in the past. And so some of you you've established a meditation practice, but it's tough. It's tough to practice at home by yourselves. And since most of us on this planet have been home for several months, I just want to acknowledge how tough it is. Even for myself, it's more difficult, every day on my own without a community and a sangha to practice with. So if you're ready to kind of renew and rekindle your practice or begin one, then this is for you. So hopefully this is recording and I can share it later. But the last time I did Instagram Live, it wouldn't let me save it. So I'm glad you're here right now. Welcome. Yay. Hi, Luna. Hello, friends. So I made a little note of what I promised I would talk about today, because there's so much on this topic. I could share for months on it, and literally in my 6-month teacher training, that's what we do. People sign up for a yoga training, but we end up spending a good amount of our time working with meditation, which is really, the original, the OG yoga. So there's so much that I have to share. I made a little list of some bullets that I want to make sure I get to today. And one thing that I wanted to share with you is just how I first started practicing. Just a little bit of personal background. I love to hear your stories and hear other stories. So this is just a little bit about mine, and maybe you can relate or not. But how I started and why I've continued all these years. I've been teaching for 10 years, actually. This month that starts tomorrow in September, it'll be 10 years of teaching, and then been practicing off and on for, much longer. I'm not sure exactly how long. But, even as a child, kind of my background, even as a child, I always just took on the world. I took on the pain of the world. I really just felt our common humanity at an age that I couldn't really, my mind couldn't even grasp, how big it was. And, I'm a double Pisces, I'm a deep feeler. And I felt a lot of grief and a lot of sadness and a lot of despair. And I didn't really know how to handle it. I didn't have tools to work with it or to even be with it. And I had wonderful family and wonderful parents, but we've learned a lot more about emotional intelligence and all these things in years to come. So had a lot of pain in my mind and my heart and my body growing up, and just felt the pain of the world. From the outside, things looked pretty good, but inside I was pretty much a tormented mess much of my, younger life. And I suffered from depression, and, I felt a lot of despair. I grew up in Iowa, and a lot of people will just assume that, if you grow up in the Midwest or in Iowa, it's a certain type of upbringing. But I come from a very special family, a very open-minded family. And so my mom had like a spiritual library of books lying around. I remember like picking up and reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead when I was, I don't know, 13 or something. My stepfather was a Tai Chi master, and you get the idea. So I was exposed to spirituality, and I had a deep curiosity towards spirituality. I had this deep hunger to understand, the nature of reality. Like from a very young age, I was like, what is going on here? Anybody feel me? Anyone else ever felt that way when you were a child? Yeah. So I, had this curiosity around spirituality. And I remember, I would go to the temple with friends, and I'd go to the mosque with friends. I'd go to church, and I would go to Baha'i camp. Baha'i is a super awesome faith, by the way. But I go to Baha'i camp with one of my friends every summer. Oh yeah, thank you all for feeling me. Yeah, totally. And so, I had this deep curiosity around spirituality and even around religion and, some unseen bigger force at work, a higher power, right? And yet my depression and my deep sadness and despair for the world definitely kind of wavered me in and out of a sense of almost nihilism, right? A sense of the idea of God or goddess felt almost too painful to bear, given the suffering that I witnessed around the world. I'm just pausing to be like, wow, this sounds depressing, but I'm just telling you the honest truth. So yeah, thank you for being here. And I also come from an activist family. My family was always really involved in social justice and political movements, and that was the main topic of conversation around our dinner table. And so from a very young age, I was really involved in what I'll call the outer work, right? So the work of really tending to the world, tending to humanity on this outer level in this active way. I started volunteering way back when I was in middle school on different social issues and political campaigns. And that grew and grew until it's what I did for my full-time job. And, my full-time job through college, after college, then after dropping out of law school, which is a whole nother very fun story I'd love to share with you sometime, that actually plays a part in this, but, only so much today. So I was working full-time as an activist, as an organizer, and full-time in the role of an organizer or in the realm of politics and NGOs can be 60, 70, 80 hours a week. So it was intense. We were on this mission to save the world, and we were going to do whatever it took, even if we didn't sleep, even if we, self-care was not even a word then, and if it was, I would have scoffed at it, no, I'm here, doing the work. I dabbled in meditation when I was younger, but I had always kind of given up, feeling like it's too hard, and that's something I want to come back to. But as I was working as an organizer, I found myself in this place that organizers and full-time activists find themselves in a lot, which is burnout mode. Yeah, anybody feel me on that? So, and you don't have to be an organizer and activist to be in burnout mode. I know many of my friends here have been in burnout mode from being in the corporate world or being in so many different, the medical health fields, all sorts of things. But I realized that it wasn't just burnout that I was, suffering from. It was something else too. And it really became more apparent as I started meditating. So I returned to meditation really because it was getting so dire. The burnout, the depression. I was basically arguing with people for a living, and I was just, my pitta was so high, And I was really unhappy. I was really unhappy. And like from the outside, I don't think people would have seen that. But there was just a lot of, I was just really tormented inside, really, really beat up inside. And so when I started meditation again during this time as a young adult, I realized that this outer work that I was so committed to, this outer work was incomplete. It just wasn't integrated. It wasn't whole unless I did this really gritty, messy, really hard inner work. And, it might feel like the inner work is like supposed to be easier or something, but for me it was quite the opposite. It was quite the opposite. And I really was faced in this time of my life of, how could I be rallying for peace and justice when there was literally an inner war just blazing inside of me all the time, just like so much negativity, so much torment, so much anguish and pain and rage and suffering inside. How could I be talking about oppression when I hadn't even thought about facing the oppression and the systems that had been colonized within me? How could I fall in love with this world that I was so, I wanted so badly to save, when I had never learned how to really love myself? And so these questions really came up as I began meditating again as a very young adult. I realized I was constantly abandoning myself. I was constantly abandoning my own feelings, my grief for the world. And so this practice showed me a way to show up in a way that I never had before. A greater capacity, a greater resiliency, a way to show up, a way to find a home within myself where I could hold space for everything that I was witnessing outside me and within me. And it wasn't overnight, it took time. But I mean, two things have completely changed my life, and they are meditation and motherhood. Again, another story. But both of them opened me up to a wider view of reality, an intimacy with reality that I had been numb to. And I get teary-eyed just even thinking about it. Like my heart opens with so much gratitude that I was able to be exposed to these practices, because they really truly have saved my life and gotten me out of deep depression and just a lot. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm just take a moment and thank you for being here. And I know that was so much of my story, but I just want to be honest with you and not sugarcoat it. In terms of how I started, or how I kind of restarted practice, I've studied many different techniques. I studied yogic techniques, I've studied Buddhist, the Buddha Dharma, and thank you friends. So I've studied Zen and Tibetan Buddhism, but mostly Vipassana. Thanks, Mama. Vipassana, or insight meditation, which is really, kind of where mindfulness came out of. Mindfulness, which I often refer to as heartfulness, because in those traditions, the heart-mind is one. It's not this separate duality. And so I've had many teachers in that world of mindfulness and sati and Vipassana, and did a whole Dharma training and teacher training with some of those teachers like Tara Brach and Jack Kornfield. And then I really discovered yogic meditation through my teacher Baba Hari Das and that yogic lineage. And so many different beautiful teachers that I bow to who have showed me this path. And now when I practice and when I teach, I really just kind of blend from my own direct experience. Oh, thank you, Taryn. Thank you so much. So that's a little bit about that. I know I had some other bullet points that I wanted to share with you that I know I put on the post promoting this. So let me make sure I get to them. I could go on and on, right? So thank you. Thank you for being here and for just letting me open up and be so real with you. I really adore you all. So let's see, some beloved tips and techniques for establishing or renewing a practice. So I often get emails and, DMs from people saying like, what's a great book to, learn how to meditate from? And I love that curiosity. I love that enthusiasm, but it's so hard to like learn these things from a book because this path is really about direct experience. So it's not about, what a teacher tells you or, what you've read about, but it's really about sitting with what is and being with your own direct experience. That being said, having a teacher, having a guide is so, there's no way I could have had life unfold the way it has without these teachers in my life, like truly. And so if I were just gonna pull a couple of nuggets for you today, the nuggets I would pull is, first of all, if you're starting a meditation practice, just have a little sacred space. And this does not mean that you need to like rearrange your whole room or that you need to like buy some expensive statue of the Buddha. Like, no, like spiritual materialism, no, don't need it. Like, you don't need anything but just a place to be. But I say establish a space because there's something really powerful if there's a certain spot that you sit in again and again. This sort of residue of energy collects there, and it's just so much easier to drop in. And I say that being someone who, until COVID, traveled, like half the days of the year. I was traveling, leading retreats, leading teacher trainings, and things like that, often with my daughter in tow, and sitting every day. So I'd be sitting in strange hotels and like on park benches and things like that. And so I just want to reiterate that you can meditate anywhere, no problem. But if you can create a little space in your home, it just makes it that much easier to reestablish or to begin a practice. And you can sit in a chair. I think that sitting on the ground is overrated. Sometimes I am sitting on the ground now and I like to, but I just yesterday did a really long sit and I sat in a chair for 90 minutes. I don't usually sit for 90 minutes every single day, but I did yesterday, and it was so nice to just feel my feet on the earth and sit in that way. So if you want to find a cushion or something, I have this cushion. This is a local company called Matter, M-A-T-R. Maybe I'll put that in the notes to y'all. They're just a great local mom and pop shop. And yes, Linda, good to be presence. So yeah, finding a chair, a cushion, something that you can just deepen into and find your space. And then, having your meditation have some sort of ritual, whether it's like you om before and after, or you light a candle and then, put it out after. Just something that creates a boundary of I'm beginning my sitting practice and I'm ending my sitting practice I can't even tell you how like simple, but how helpful that tip is. So again, a candle, a bell, there's many different kind of traditional ways, but you can create your own ritual. And then that way it's not like, oh, am I done yet? Are we done? Oh, I'm just gonna like look at Instagram halfway through. No, it's just like this clear ritual that you have, this sacred space that you create for yourself. Yeah, so that's one tip I wanted to share with you. And let me give you a few more. Another is that, you can set a timer. Of course, there's, great apps, there's Insight Timer, there's things like that. And of course, listening to a recorded meditation can be lovely. There's lots of apps for that. Yeah, totally, Marianne. But I also think that it's important to balance that with just stillness. And so if you're doing a guided meditation, have, a timer on just to sit with some stillness afterwards. So yeah, use a timer, use your phone, put it on airplane mode or do not disturb, or, use Insight Timer, something like that. Then in terms of your actual practice, one thing that's really if there's one tip that I could give to folks, because I see so often in this modern spiritual world and the wellness world, with meditation, kind of meditating from here up. And so to anchor in the body during our meditation is so important. There's so much I could unpack here, but for now, just to realize that consciousness is everywhere. Right? And so it's not just like here or here or here, it's everywhere. And so it's really important to anchor in the body. And also the thing about it is the mind is often in the future or the past, like almost always, but the body's here. And so we can use the felt sense of the body, the sensory experience, the sensual capacity of the body to bring ourselves back to presence, right? And so using your connection to the earth, the felt sense of the earth, so just do that for a moment right now. You can keep your eyes open or close your eyes and just tune into what does it feel like to be resting on the earth, whether it's your feet, whether it's your sit bones. Not the narrative, not the story that your mind creates around it, but the actual felt experience, the pressure, the feeling of gravity. Yeah. And then another felt experience that's really helpful to anchor into is the felt sense of the breath. So notice how the mind, yeah, exactly. So how the mind is, maybe wanting to think about your to-do list, how you need to get off this IG live because there's so much to do, or maybe your mind is thinking about, something you regret from last week. But your breath, it's happening now. Yeah, so just allow your breath to anchor you into this present moment. Noticing the inhale, noticing the exhale. And you don't have to change your breath, just allowing the breath to breathe you. And as you breathe in, simply know that you are breathing in. And as you breathe out, simply knowing that you are breathing out. Yeah. Okay, good. So this is like a little mini moment of meditation, and really this way of anchoring into presence. It's not like, we just do it on our mat in the morning and then the rest of our day, What happens is, we don't sit on the cushion to get better at meditation. That's not what this is about. We sit so we can, move forward in our lives, in this world, with our families and our relationships and our activism and all the ways that you connect with the world in a way that is connected and present and tolerant. And so we discover that in our sit, in our meditation practice, and then it carries us, right? Like this boat through the oceans of our life. So one more tip I want to give is community. And I know during COVID it's so tough, but this is the way that I learned to practice, and it's the way that I normally teach practice, is in community. There's the three jewels of Buddhism, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And the Buddha himself said, Sangha is the most important. Sangha, the spiritual community, is more important, even the teachings, right? This remembrance that we're, this sense of belonging to each other. And so as we're doing this work of sitting with what is, sitting with our grief, sitting with our, unadulterated joy, sitting with these parts of ourself that we have never fully been with or gazed softly towards, doing this in community can give us such strength and also accountability. Like for me, it's so nice to be in a community because I can't cop out, I'm holding myself accountable by being there for you, and you're holding yourself accountable by being there for others. And so, with COVID, I know it's hard to be in a community. You may have heard that we are doing a monthly meditation group, and it starts September 1st, which is Tuesday, tomorrow. And we, every Tuesday and Thursday morning, it's at 7:45 a.m. Pacific time. And we sit for about 45 minutes till 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. And part of that is guided, and I guide you through some opening pranayama practices, some breath practices, and a little guided meditation. We work with all different meditations, mindfulness and sati and mantra. And then we have, a silent portion of the meditation to really be with what is. And then you can jump off at 8:30, or you can stay on and until 9 a.m. Pacific time. We have a group that stays on. Anyone's welcome to any day. And we journal and we share. And how many of you that are on right now in this Instagram Live are part of that? I think I saw Luna and Tara and a few others. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're a part of this too, love. It's so amazing. It's really just such a deep community. It's just like the supportiveness, the holding is really, really sweet. And I never knew that we could do this over online, but somehow we are, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah. Oh, hi, Vicky. Yes. So, if you want to join our community, you can. We have it at sliding scale, and we're never going to let money stop you from this. There's no reason for that. So find a sliding scale price that is in your, all radical honesty works for you. And, with your generous heart, pay what you can. And if you can't even do the sliding scale prices, then you can write us and get a scholarship. And yes, Marianne, we're totally still enrolling. We start tomorrow morning, Tuesday. And what I would say is sign up now if you can. But even if you need to think about it or something, you can always start a little bit later, like Thursday, but if you can, start tomorrow so we can really open together. It'd be really, really glorious. Okay, so I want to get through just a couple more things. I know we're already 30 minutes in. So I talked a little bit about how the inner work goes hand in hand with the outer work, and there's so much more I could say about that, but I think you get it. And then spiritual bypass. So this is a really important thing that I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of meditation out there these days. There's a lot of spirituality, and I think it's all, so well intentioned, and I think a lot of it is really helping and resourcing folks. But there's also a way in which spiritual bypass is happening, and it's really widespread. As yoga and meditation have become more popular. So I'm just going to read you the definition of spiritual bypass by the person who coined the term, John Wellwood, and he's an amazing Buddhist teacher and psychotherapist, really incredible. His wife's incredible too. And so he coined it back in the early 80s as a spiritual bypass is a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. So there's this way that, our spiritual practice can grow our capacity and our resiliency and our care to really be with what is. And there's also this way of spiritual bypass where, instead of focusing on the here and now, we can kind of drift off into some ethereal spiritual realm that feels spiritual, but is actually not really integrated into our lives and into reality. You'll see this in like the overemphasis on the positive and avoiding the negative in a lot of spiritual teachings and teachers. You'll see it in being self-righteous about enlightenment. I don't even use that word. I do talk about awake heart or bodhicitta, but it's not this place you get to. It's just remembering what we already are. And so, there's this way in which spiritual bypass is it's here in the spiritual realm, especially of 2020. And right now, more than ever, we need folks to show up in these human lives with our hearts open and strong and ready to care for one another. So I just wanted to say that so that no matter what practice you might be doing or getting into, to just tune in and ask yourself, and is my spiritual practice something that's actually just leading me to more avoidance? Or is it actually helping me reveal the truth? And that truth is messy and it's difficult, but the truth is your heart is big enough to hold it. It really is. It truly is. So I just wanted to mention that. And then the other thing I wanted to do before we go is also to talk about, how to befriend stillness. And specifically, so many folks, tell me if you've said this before. I know I used to say this, and I hear people say it to me all the time. They say, well, I would love to meditate. I heard it's good for you, but I can't. I just think too much. Anybody ever felt that or thought that or said that? So here's the thing is, thinking is not the problem. Thinking is not the problem. It's our relationship to our thoughts. And here's the thing is our meditation practice, if we're really doing this work, then our meditation practice is not so much, changing us or fixing us. It's actually just shifting our relationship, to our thoughts, to ourselves, to our world, right? And so just to say in terms of, I think too much, so often what our mind is doing is merely reconvincing us of old habits, of old beliefs. And that's what it's doing much of the time. We think it might be coming up with these breakthrough things, and it does at times, of course. I'm so thankful for our minds. They are wonderful. But I just want to say that most of the time, those thoughts, they're not new, they're not groundbreaking, it's the same old. And so what we get to do is instead of just being in that constant whirl and repeat of the thoughts of the mind, we get to find this resource space to notice, first of all, to observe our thoughts. So rather than living, as a prisoner to our thoughts and our beliefs, we're able to actually relate to them. It doesn't mean that they go away, but we can have a friendship and curiosity, or we can, as we say, sit down and have tea with our demons, right? And so it's you don't have to stop thinking to meditate. But as we practice, and it does take practice, it's not it's called a practice for a reason. It's not you sit for 5 minutes and you're oh, that didn't work, right? But as we sit and we allow ourselves to, be with what's uncomfortable and be with what is, so alive and be with what is numb, then there's this way that we cultivate this deep and tender and beautiful relationship with our thoughts and with ourselves. And then it doesn't have to rule us and run the whole show. So if that's the reason why you're thinking that you don't want to start a meditation practice, I'm just here to refute that and tell you that you can. You can indeed, I promise you. So really this is a practice about deepening our radical acceptance. And the way that I teach is, again, based on sati or mindfulness. By the way, sati means to remember. And so in this way, it's not like we're fixing ourselves or we're becoming enlightened. We're just remembering what we always have been, what we already are. We're remembering how to be presence. And this is so powerful. And the way in which I teach is there's two wings of this bird that take flight for us to move forward in our lives. And one is mindfulness or clear seeing, that radical honesty, that radical acceptance. And the second is compassion, is that, shared humanity and that care that is who we are and that we can root into and cultivate to open up like flower petals, like a lotus. So that is, oh my gosh, I want to talk for like 5 more hours, but I think I covered what I promised I would, and I'm really, really grateful that you stayed and that you're here and that you care. Like, even if you have tried meditating and you've failed, the fact that you're here and that you care, it really inspires me. And again, I hope that you consider joining us for Shelter in the Heart, which is a meditation group that we'll do for the whole month of September, every Tuesday, Thursday morning, and it's live and it's with community, and it kind of feels like we're all in this meditation hall together, and basically we just come out stronger and more tender-hearted and more awake to this world and to the beauty of our lives, every time we sit together. So I hope you join us for that. And I also want to just invite you all tonight to Yoga Church, and we're doing another fire relief class tonight, and anybody who needs to come for free, just come on. There's a way to do that on the website, but we'll have Yoga Church tonight at 5:30 Pacific time. And in Yoga Church, we usually do some reflection and meditation as well, but not as much as the mornings, which really emphasize it. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Luna. Thank you, Padma. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm really honored and touched to be in relationship with you and to, hi, Lori. Yes, hey, Dawn. Thanks, Seth. Yeah, I really appreciate you all so much. So have a beautiful day, and I hopefully will see you tonight at Yoga Church, or join us for our morning meditation tomorrow. Much love. Yeah, thank you.